Happy marriages can be happier, and shaky marriages can mend. Specific insight and custom codes work. Fix love now. It's the Marriage Code Podcast.
So, what is validation? I mean, babe, that word is thrown around so much. People use it all the time. You're supposed to validate people you love. You're supposed to validate your children. You should validate your wife. You should validate your employees. That word is just thrown around. I think people think they know what it means, but I don't know if they really get it. So let's talk about that real quick. As a matter of fact, there's a story that I want to share real quick. This was actually done. This isn't made up. This really happened. And they took a simple glass of water and they taped the word hate on the glass. They wrote it on a piece of paper and then taped the paper to the glass. That's it. Then what they did was they took a molecular camera, a camera that takes pictures on a molecular level, and they took a picture of the molecules of the water. And what it looked like was an explosion had happened. It looked like, you know how when you see an explosion that slowed down, things are just flying everywhere, debris is going in 1,000 different directions. That's what the molecules of the water look like with the word hate taped to the glass. They then took off that word hate on the same water, the same glass with the molecules exploding, they wrote on a different piece of paper love, and they taped that to the same glass of water. They then took a picture of that same glass of water at a molecular level. Do you know that those same molecules that looked like they were just exploding, debris going every which way, formed the most beautiful snowflake looking type of structure? It's the same water. We didn't take a different glass of water. It wasn't one was chilled and one was warm and one was... No, it's the same glass within minutes, put a different word on it. Well, if the word does that to the molecules in a glass, isn't our body consistent of 75% water?
Yes.
Then what are our words doing physiologically to our children, to our spouses, to each other? So when I say to my wife, baby, I love you, that does much more to her than you even understand.
Yes.
When your wife looks at you and says, baby, I trust you.
Yes.
Lead me. That does more to him than she even is trying to.
Right.
We're talking that down to the molecular level.
Yes.
It's impacting the person.
Wow.
That's validation.
Wow.
And so validation, the way we define it, is speaking life literally into, speaking beauty into, speaking God into.
Right.
That's what validation is.
Right.
And so,
So, yeah, babe, I think, wow, that was amazing. Such a beautiful picture you painted there. But let's look at the word validation and see what it actually means.
According to the dictionary.
According to the dictionary, yeah. Validation is the recognition and acceptance of another person's thoughts, feelings, their sensations, and behaviors as understandable.
Wow.
Interesting.
So that means that even if I don't understand it,
yes,
that I should probably seek to.
Yeah.
That means I have to let go of my stuff, my views, my perspective, my biases, and truly get into that person's world.
There you go.
Isn't that interesting? Because, one of the things we've always known about marriages is that when you let go of your point of view and adopt that other person's point of view, every action they did makes sense.
Yes. Absolutely.
But when you're holding on to your own point of view and observing their actions, you see foolishness. You see, how could you not know that? That doesn't even make sense. But from their perspective, everything made sense.
Yeah,
and it's, of course, the same for you.
Yeah, that's empathy. And we talk a lot about empathy and what that looks like in a marriage.
Right.
To give your spouse that empathy and actually how it impacts them in our book.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that's exactly why we put that out there, because most people don't know.
Right.
And then the crazy thing is, if I ask somebody to tell me, hey, tell me something you don't know that you don't know. If they can answer that question, they didn't answer the question.
Right.
Because if you listen to the question, tell me something you don't know that you don't know. The whole point of the question is to wake you up to, I can't answer that because I don't know what I don't know that I don't know.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I know that sounds crazy. Just slow it down and you'll catch it. All right.
Yes, exactly.
Let's stick to the topic here. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's interesting. I don't know anybody. Baby, do you? Do you know anybody who says, you know what? I'm going to get married. I'm going to commit the rest of my life to you, but it's only going to last 6 months.
No.
That doesn't even make sense. I mean, people do it.
They do.
Right, they do it. Yeah, I'm going to commit the rest of my life to you, and 6 months later, they're divorced.
Right.
But that was not what they went in for.
Right.
They didn't go in with that intention. They went in with the intention of being forever.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, there was another one you said to me that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like no one actually goes into the marriage and say, well, I'm going to give you 85% of my time, but that 15% got to go to my side chick. Like,
exactly.
Or my, my man piece. What do we call it?
I don't even know. And I really don't even want to know. But yeah, exactly. But nobody does that.
No.
Right. But yet, that is
at least they shouldn't.
Right. If they do that, they need a different type of help, right?
Right.
But the crazy thing is, no one looks for these things, but these are the things that happen.
Right.
And so we got to start and figure out why. And that's where this topic of validation comes into play. In fact, we actually thought about 3 powerful ways that you can validate your spouse, your significant other. And baby, go ahead and share that first one with us.
Yeah. So basically, you want to be present. Now, what does that look like in a conversation? Being present simply means that I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm not going to be watching TV. I'm going to look you in your eyes. I'm going to give you the respect that you deserve as an individual of my attention, right. Because I want to communicate to you that what you have to say is important to me as well. So validating them in that sense means being present.
That's right.
And acknowledging what they have to say is important to you.
That's right. That is absolutely right. And in fact, it's interesting. As you were talking, one of the things I heard was, how do I put this in a simple way? Nonverbal communication.
Yes.
That's really what it is, right?
Yes.
We all know, I don't know if we all know, but in case you didn't, most of the time we think that communication are the words coming out of our mouth. But, again, scientifically proven that when you're communicating with somebody, the biggest part of communication is the nonverbal communication.
Yeah, body language.
It's your body language.
Yeah.
It's your eye movements.
Yes.
It's your gesture.
Yeah.
It's that energy you're giving off. I mean, I've sat talking to people. They haven't said a word to me, but I'm 100% guaranteed that they're not listening. How did I know that? How did I know that? It's the rolling of the eyes. It's they're staring out the window. It's the spaced out look on their face while I'm talking and I'm soliciting a response, and they're just staring at me blindly, like looking through me. I mean, we've all been there.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I get it, my love. You're absolutely right. Being present. It's that acknowledgement. So
absolutely.
The other one that we can touch on here is being a safe space for them. Right? Being a safe space. And babe, I think this is important, and maybe you should speak to this one, because not to sound sexist in any way, but I feel like men, we're the ones sometimes who have a challenge in being a safe space for our brides, and not the other way around. I'm not saying it doesn't happen the other way around. I know it does happen. It's shown up in our marriage at times too. But my point is, I was way worse, as an example, at being a safe space for you than you were for me. It just seems like, and then, maybe the listeners can drop us emails and comments and let me know if I'm wrong about this, that women tend to be better at it because you guys are nurturers. Like being a nurturer comes with creating safety, comes with making a person feel, good and loved and welcomed. And so can you speak to that? What does it look like for a man to make his wife feel like she's safe? What does that look like? What are his actions around that? What do they look like? And what does it feel like as a woman when your husband makes you feel that way?
Wow. Thank you, babe. That's a great question. Okay, so being that safe space, I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. What it looks like, or what we expect, or what, the person should do, versus what does it feel like. Okay. So what it looks like, first of all, for you ask me specifically for men.
Right.
And then you can answer the one for women.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So for men, one of the things that we look for as women is an openness and willingness to communicate.
Right.
we just want to know what the details are.
Right.
And another thing, and we get more into that on other segments, but another thing that's very, very important to us in being a safe space is actually validating that what we are saying, not only are you trying to understand and not just tuning us out, but that you're making an effort to hear us and not just trying your best to come up with a quick solution to fix the problem so we and it can go away.
Right.
Quickly, hurry up.
Yeah, okay. Not just it go away. You
land already. I remember in our relationship and my marriage with my husband, and we still tease about this quite often. When I would come to him about things, he would just start the airplane. He would just start the airplane noise. And it was so mean. But he, most of the time it would happen during jokes and, us playing around. And then he would say, she's circling the runway. Like women circle the runway. Like before we actually make our point, we circle the runway. And then finally 2-3 hours later, after circling the runway, we actually finally go in for the landing. And hey, my point is it has nothing to do with the last 2 hours, but this is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So as women, actually, we really do need to get better at communicating. We really do need to get better at saying what it is that we're communicating or what we want to communicate. But men also do a better job at being a safe space so that we can, like, if we need those moments, just don't try to shut us up or shut us down and get rid of the conversation and us, but really just listen, hear us, and just ask how we feel. Like, how did that make you feel? Like, okay, babe, wow, man, if that happened to you, what would you do? Because that's a clue on how you want us to respond or how we want you to respond, basically. So just being that safe space for a woman, it looks like, hey, you're not yelling at us. Number one, you're not making us feel like something's wrong with us because we're coming to you about that problem. Right. You're actually open and ready to communicate, and you're willing, and you're doing it in a kind space and from an open, kind, receiving heart. And the last thing I'll add to that is that you're present. Right. Like we mentioned, you're actually present. No cell phones, no TV, no remote control, no pacing around, waiting for it to be over, but you're present and you're listening and you're giving us your ear and you're not blaming us. Well, things like that happen to people like you.
I used to say that to my wife, y'all. I used to say that to her at the beginning.
This was before we were married. He would say that.
Things like that happen to people like you.
I was like, this dude. Yeah, it was, but he's gotten much better.
So that means we can't even have the football game in the background. Like, no, it's muted though. It's no sound.
No.
We just every once in a while just want a quick glance.
Turn it off during the conversation.
Okay. All right. I think we understand. Fellas, I'm trying to fight for us. No, I'm teasing. No, but seriously, babe, you're right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have something you want to say about
that?
No.
Go for it.
Okay. So, but the last part of that is, how does that make us feel?
Yes.
Man, as women, it makes us feel like we've arrived. Like there is no safer space for us outside of our husbands validating our conversation and our concerns for us. Right. And, I know this is like the politically correct society and we want to support the women's movement and all that, but I'm speaking to the women that are married and that are looking to become one with their spouses. If you're looking to become one with your spouse and you're actually vulnerable in your marriage, then it is important for you to have a spouse that's open and that receives us, because when we have that experience, it gives us everything we need to accomplish. It gives us everything. I mean, we literally physically have more energy to get through our day. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So and it provides that much needed number one need for us, which is security. It provides that for us in ways that you can't even imagine. So
that's amazing. That really is. Yeah. And I think and hopefully some of the men listening take heed to what you just said.
Yeah.
I liken it to my wife and I are blessed. We have our 6 kids. We have 3 boys, 3 girls, and my wife doesn't want to break the tie, y'all. So we good. Factory closed. But anyway,
right. That's
so
right.
so I liken it to how I listen to my daughters, because it's interesting. I in the beginning would be impatient with my wife when she would start the circling of the one-way thing, right? But my daughter, actually. Well, one of them is still 6 months, but 2 of them, one is 10 and the other is now 4.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because they do it too. Like my little girls will start talking and dad and then, Daddy, do you like my hair? Baby, I think your hair is awesome. But Daddy, let me finish telling you. So yeah, Dad. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I can feel my hair turning gray as I'm trying to listen and be patient. But you know what's interesting? I never interrupted her. I would sit there and listen to her circle the runway 1,000 times before she landed. And here's what I realized. I realized that when she was done, she couldn't wait for my feedback. She was like, nothing else mattered more to her in that moment than, okay, Dad, what do you have to say to me? So that very thing that I was itching to say to my wife, or that I was waiting for her to finish circling so I can actually express it, when she's done, she wants it more than anything else in the world in that moment. So my point in saying that is, gentlemen, brothers, we will get a chance to speak. We will get a chance to share whatever it is that we want to share. Just be patient and let her get it out. Now, that was the second one. The third one that we wanted to share with you guys, the third way in that how you can validate your spouse is really one that I think is just truly profound when you get it. It's to give them room to complain to you about you. Wow. When that level of wisdom entered our marriage, things shifted. We noticed that our arguments didn't last as long. We got through things faster. In fact, things that normally would be an argument were now a quick conversation, and not even a conversation, more like a quick interaction, and then we're gone. And it was because we allowed each other the ultimate validation, which is I give you complete and utter permission to tell me anything about me that you want to tell me. And no matter how bad, no matter how much you think I don't want to hear it, no matter how much I don't want to hear it, I'm going to shut up, bite my tongue, not say a word, and give you room to say whatever you want to say about me. And here's what we found. Guess what? Now the communication stays here where it was intended to. There is no girlfriend now being spoken to. There is no side piece over here that you're sharing this information with about your spouse, because you have the room to talk to your spouse directly. There's no room now for any unhealthiness to show up, because one of the things that causes something to spoil is when the context which is in is not conducive. If I take certain fruit and I let it sit in the refrigerator, you would say the refrigerator is the place where the fruit should stay because it allows it to be fresh longer. Do you know certain fruits spoil faster in the fridge? It speeds up the spoiling process. And I'm not a botanist or a fruit expert, so please forgive my lack of using the proper terms if you are one. But do you know if I take that same fruit and I put it in the crisper and then I set the crisper to the correct setting, that fruit would have lasted 2 to 3 weeks longer? The same fruit. Now, it's the same refrigerator. Check this out. It's the same fridge, but I just put it in a different environment within that same context. And so that's what I'm saying is it's your same spouse. It's your same marriage. But all you did was you gave them room to complain to you about you. You moved them from one space into another in that same context, and everything shifted. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this has blessed our marriage in such a tremendous way. Yeah. For my wife to be able to say, you know what, babe, I need to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And for me not to feel like, oh boy, she said we need to talk. Come on, man. You know what I'm talking about. Yes. Whenever your wife says to you, we need to talk, you're like, oh my gosh.
How can
I get out of this? Where's the cotton ball? Because my ears are about to start bleeding. Like, my schedule needs to fill up very quickly and now. So anyway, you no longer have those painful moments simply because you gave them room. So, and room to complain to you about you doesn't mean that it's room to what's the word?
Be unhealthy or criticize.
Criticize. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference between complaining about something and criticizing about that thing. So complaining looks like this. Baby, you know, it really bothers me when ... I would love if we could take this approach instead.
Yes.
Are you okay with that? Is there anything I can do to help us to move in that direction? Right. That's healthy. That's healthy complaining. Criticism looks like, you know, every time I come in, you always do this stuff, and it makes me sick because you just you're just not in tune with me. You're the problem. You're a dummy. And I don't even know if this. Why did I marry you? Like, that's criticizing.
That's what happens in relationships, because people have an experience that is negative and not understanding that argument, that potential argument, it's their gift. I know you have some things to say about that, babe, because you and I were talking about that right before we got started.
Oh, absolutely. I look at it. This is how I look at it now. I didn't look at it that way then, but now here's how we look at things. That the arguments are gifts. They're gifts. GIFTS. Gift. It's a gift to you, in my opinion, from God. Why? Let me put it this way before I even proceed. If you're pushing a wagon and one of the wheels needs a little grease, how would you know that?
Because it squeaks.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's a saying that I have that the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right.
But if the wheel that needs the grease doesn't squeak, I don't know that I need to apply any grease. Right. I'm going to keep moving about my business like nothing's wrong. Right. I may feel like this wagon is a little harder to pull. Why is there so much more tension? It's working. Let's just keep going. But the grease would be applied if the wheel squeaked. Right. So the arguments are gifts. Yeah. So look at the arguments as a place that's God is telling you, hey, this needs a little bit more attention. Hey, this needs a little bit more grease. And so the arguments are gifts, right? But here's the thing. They're gifts not to validate that you have been making, that your spouse has been making the wrong choices. Right. They're gifts to validate that this thing needs to be addressed.
That's it.
Right? And so what makes it a gift is choosing to look for the opportunity in it.
There you go.
Right? So if I looked at that squeaky wagon and said, this thing is squeaking, it's useless. I need a new one.
Right.
When I get that new one, after a year or 2 years or so, guess what? Something's going to squeak. Oh, that means that this wagon is useless. Throw it away. Let me go get a new one. Before you know it, you'll have 1,000 wagons and a new one right there. But at the same time, you're going to have the same problem. So the problem wasn't the squeaky wheel. The problem was your perception
of the squeaky wheel.
That's right. So look at the arguments as opportunities. Shift how you look at them.
That's it.
Right?
And when we say arguments, we don't mean that it's okay to argue. What we're saying is that opportunity to communicate with your spouse that would usually turn into an argument. Now look at that as an opportunity instead of for you guys to, I'll just let him have his way like he does all the time, or I'll let her have her way like she does all the time. Look at that as a situation to come together and be healthy, because that's a gift for you to elevate. That's right. For you both to get to a different level in your marriage, in your relationship. That's right. So the reason why this part is so important is because I come from a family personally, and this was a huge revelation in our marriage, because how I saw relationships is that if there was a fight, that means it was over. If there was a disagreement, an argument, all that means it was over. I grew up watching a very unhealthy relationship. And what happens, I found out later that, they fought all the time. I just wasn't there. Right. But when I actually saw the argument or the fight, then my first exposure was that, okay, he's gone, and the police came, picked him up, and it was over. So I got to see my dad from, visitations only.
Right. Right.
So my sister and I, as a matter of fact, it wasn't just me, it was my sister as well. Like, we both grew up thinking that, okay, if an argument happens, then that's a bad sign in a relationship. Right. And it just means that the relationship is struggling to grow. Right. That's all it means. Right. So when my husband says that argument, what you view as an argument, is a gift, it doesn't mean that somebody gets to have their way. It means that challenge is an opportunity that God has given you to get to the other side. And what I mean by that is, on the other side of any trial, any challenge, is growth.
That's right.
We go through that we may grow through those experiences. You ever seen a child that has like joint pains and like, oh, mommy, our children come to us all the time. My ankle's hurting. My knees are bothering me. The problem is that, okay, yes, I can soak you in a tub, but that pain isn't going away until your body has experienced that growth spurt. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. Those are growing pains. And marriages, relationships, and anything in life has those same experiences. Mm-hmm. You go through growing pains, but once you've gotten there, once you've outgrown that problem or you've grown through that situation or that challenge, you never have to repeat it again.
That's right.
That's how God works in our society or with human beings. Yeah. The only trials or challenges we ever have to repeat are the ones we refuse to learn from. Yeah. So if you find yourself in your relationship or in your marriage and you guys keep going through the same thing. You keep going through the same thing. Oh, he just won't stop. He just won't stop. What is it that you're refusing to learn from? And when we say refusing to learn from, we're saying that you're so stubborn. Yes, we said it. You're so stubborn that you won't stop for a minute together. When I say you, I'm talking about you and your spouse. You won't slow down for a minute to look at your situation and respond differently this time around. Do something different. So you know what? The last 10 times you did this is how we responded. Yeah, we got over it. We had makeup sex and yeah, we were good the next week. But how about we actually talk it out this time? How about we buy this book? How about we reach out to Obinna and Belinda and see if we can schedule a consultation? How about we do things differently this time around? The only challenges, whether in your marriage or in your life, that you have to repeat are the ones that you refuse to learn from.
That's right. That's right. In fact, I think this is a great place for us to kind of, bring this to us, bring this home. And it's interesting because as you were talking, babe, I wrote down, I looked up something I wrote down, and here's what it was. How the world occurs to a person is based on the pictures in their head and what they say to themselves about those pictures. Let me repeat that and I'll explain very briefly and we'll close out. How the world occurs to a person is based on the pictures in their head and what they say to themselves about those pictures. And you just talked about how you grew up and the pictures of your household and the picture that household then put in your mind about relationships and then how those pictures and the things you said to yourself about those pictures impacted us early on in our marriage. And it was the same for me. But again, I'll spare you guys all my gory details. We'll go into that at a different podcast, or again, grab one of our series and you'll hear the story. But my point is this. First of all, we don't, as parents, don't realize that we're giving our kids pictures in their heads of what a marriage is supposed to look like. I'm willing to bet that if I go back and asked your parents that they thought they were doing a good thing by not allowing you to see them argue, by not allowing you to see them go through something, by not allowing you to see them make up. And I would beg to differ in saying that it is healthy for children to see mom and dad go through something. It is healthier for them to even after that see them make up and talk about it. Why? Because that's the picture they hold in their head now. And so now when they in turn, it's their time to be with their mate, pick their mate, argue with their mate, make up with their mate. The pictures that they have in their heads are one that are actually healthy, right? One that's actually going to be authentic, right? And that's so it's real life. And so it's not to knock mom and dad. It's not to knock their choices. It's to say, hey, Here is what those choices were.
Right.
Here is how they impacted this person.
Right.
And here is how that then impacted that person's marriage.
Right.
And so again, I say to you all that are listening and can hear our voices today, be careful that you are not making your spouse wrong because the pictures in their head is different from the pictures in your head. The pictures of how they grew up and the pictures of how they saw their parents grow up, or the pictures of how they didn't see their parents grow up, are what you are now dealing with. Know that they want the same thing you do. The difference is you got to sit down, just like you read earlier, my love, and you said it's about understanding that point of view from the other party. You don't necessarily have to agree or disagree. That's not the point. It's understanding that other point of view. And that's where a lot of marriages fail, because they think they understand. But what they take from the other point of view is they create judgment. Based on the fact that what that other point of view is different from mine. So therefore yours must be less than. Or wrong. And so the key then is to say, hey, if this is going to work, I need to be open that mine may be wrong too.
That's right.
I need to be open that, wow, maybe it's both of us.
Right.
Because last time I checked, it takes two to argue. Last time I checked, it takes two to be happy. And if it always takes two, then it's going to take two to get past.
That's right.
And so whether they're wrong or not, you're right or not, doesn't even matter. It's about what are the two of you going to choose as your new right? Yeah. Where are you guys going to grow together? Yeah. What is it that you have to accept into your new knowing and let go of your old knowing? What is it that they're going to have to accept of their new knowing and let go of their old knowing to now create a new knowing that you both coexist in?
Yes.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, Obinna and Belinda Ndu, we thank you for your time. We thank you for your patience in listening to us and getting it out. Sometimes we know the words can be clumsy, but we appreciate you in listening in to us. And again, like we always suggest, go check out our website, OBandBelindaNdu.com. Check it out, covenantmarriages.com. Both sites lead you to the same place, and you can get access to the rest of the information. And baby, you have anything you want to say as we wrap up?
Yes, guys, don't forget to share this, download the material. If you know someone that's going through, don't just pray for them, but be a real friend and share the information that you're getting today. If this is blessing you, pay it forward, bless someone else. Take care, guys. God bless you, and we'll hear you on the next podcast.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Marriages need lifelong learning. Visit www.covenantmarriageacademy.com. Learn, see, and grow in marital bliss. We have video help, counseling appointments available, and more. The Ndus have solutions specifically for you. Fix love now.